Hello everybody, I'm Rich Van Slambrook with Weller Truck Parts, and with me...
Hey, I'm Bill Davidson, associate owner here for 20 years.
20 years?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good.
I know, right?
You learned a few things, I bet. And because we have learned a few things over the many years, we have a whole series of these vodcasts coming forth. Today, they're going to be covering everything from different failure analysis to other subjects like partnerships and the meaning of a partnership. Today, we're focused simply on oil and in oil and transmissions. To understand how important oil is, and not just the right oil, but also the right amount of oil, and being sure that we can prevent it from being contaminated. We're going to touch on all of that today. You know, oil and lubrication failures are always ranked at least in the top three, as I remember from my days back at Eaton. What are you seeing? We're seeing many failed units that come through the door in the realm of a core a day. And how do you see oil failures?
We review pretty much every sale that we get, the core that comes in. Our team is always capturing data from them, seeing what failure modes they're having. Oil is definitely the top one. You know, when you get into premature wear and premature failure. So either it's the wrong oil being used, so they're not getting the right oil for the product, or tentatively oil water contamination, so drive axles, transmissions, getting water into them, causing parts to premature wear and fail.
Well, let's start with the right oil. Okay. Let's start with the right oil. Let's start with something that at least that we're all familiar with is in a manual, heavy duty manual transmission.
Oh, absolutely. So one of the big takeaways there, manual transmissions, they're being replaced rapidly. So your manual FR series, your RTLOs, your Ultra Shifts, your Ultra Shift Plus have been replaced by the Endurant, the DT12, the I-Shift. So looking at just as you said, Eaton. Okay, let's look at the history of that. Eaton used to have 50-weight transmission oil.
Yep.
And before that, it was just a mineral-based oil, right?
That goes way back.
Way back, yeah.
Although...
That's what I say, we're dating you now.
I know.
But what is commonly misunderstood right now in the market is Eaton's PS386. So it's their approved oil, their 40-weight oil that they've put the blessing on for all of the products. When it's the Endurant, not the Precision. The Precision has its own oil. But pretty much the Endurant, the twin countershaft manuals, the PS386 is the front runner when it comes down to conversations about oil.
Okay.
Yep.
So when did that change take place?
So roughly 2007 is when Eaton's 50-weight PS164 Rev 7 came out, I believe. So 10-year window, you get down to 2017. Greenhouse gas laws are coming into trucks. Fuel efficiency is a big deal. That's when they start really getting into the change over to that PS386 approval for oil.
All right.
So want me to throw it up on the screen there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see it.
We're going to head over to Eaton website. So easy way to find it, you can hop on Google. As we can see there, we got some sales pieces on the top for different oil. But we're going to drop into the Eaton website for PS386 lubricant. And one of the things I like about it, and I think a lot of the fleets do too, it's even right here on this page, is the improved fuel economy. So they really do talk about that 1.5% improvement for fuel efficiency. They get into the advanced gear wear tests where they show that the newer gen oil they're running and approving is outperforming the older generation oil.
Is that like from 7 to 9 series?
So the 9 series is even an antique. You're looking at that came out in the 90s, you know.
I really am dating myself, aren't I?
At least you're not bringing up 6th gen talking about that.
Well, I could have.
There you go. But right there, it gets into copper corrosion, which is in heating elements and things, heat coolers and heat exchangers and radiators. So essentially, it's just Eaton's go at saying this is the oil we have done many tests on. We approve to be ran in our products. So, that's the big shift is that 1990, or what did I say, 2007.
2007
Yep.
from 50 to the 40, and
Yep.
then
Yep.
the newer in 2017, I think
Yep,
you said.
7 to 17, that's right.
Yep.
It's a nice thing, 10-year window of that 50 weight synthetic. So right now we're seeing a lot of guys that are still using the 50 weight. I think it is a good oil. You know, the Mobile Delvac 50 weight is a good oil. But you can tell for fuel efficiency, protection of products, all of those other things, oil has to keep up with the drivetrain. In the greenhouse gas laws as they've been rolling out, you can tell the oil manufacturers are really trying to keep up with the drivetrain manufacturers.
So, like, I know there's a lot of manufacturers of different oils out there that even Eaton approves. Is there any difference in those, or some people may have this, some people may have that in the shop, and I guess how does that work?
So I will not pretend to be a oil engineer by any means. I've definitely seen a lot of oil over my life. If we hop over to Eaton's site here, we're going to come over into their approvals. So this is just the specifications tab. It's going to list out all the suppliers. So the list here is actually quite large. You got BASF, BP, you got Chevron, Citgo, and all of these, ExxonMobil. I am personally a Mobile Delvac fan. That is my number one.
Okay.
Call it bias. But it's a long list of oils that had to submit over and make sure that they qualify to be carrying that PS386 logo. That lets you know that it's reviewed and approved with the additives that they use to meet the standards that Eaton has kind of set the stage with.
Okay.
Yep. And it'll be right on their label, so it's not going to say little gimmicky things like meets or is kind of like PS386, or it's going to actually have the PS386 approval on it. And the nice thing is, too, is these manufacturers like Mobile Delvac, they are also approved for Mac. So you look at the Mac approvals for Mac transmissions. The same lube that Eaton said is good for their transmissions, Mac is also
good for a Mac.
Is good for a Mac.
See.
So,
okay.
Good list of vendors and suppliers on oil right there. And again, it's really just picking something that has been tested and vetted by the manufacturer of the drivetrain parts. So.
Right. No, I know it matters. I know it matters quite a bit, actually. Getting the right lubrication in there, especially on a heavy-duty transmission. And it matters so much that we even have a bundle package that extends the warranty on our manual transmission sales. That when you purchase the right oil, the pre-approved oil, and you pre-approved new clutch, that's part of our bundle package, that we can extend that to a 3-year warranty at no charge for the customer. That just kind of shows, I think, our belief in what oil and a new clutch can do.
Oh, absolutely. And you look at those any additional terms to warranty where you get that extra year. And me as a consumer, I always step back and I go, okay, why is it that if I just do these two things, I can have another year?
Right.
Well, from working in the parts manufacturing side, you actually see why. The incorrect oil is a good leading cause of premature wear. So by doing this is not only are you proving that the right oil went in and good clutch went in, now it's going to give that transmission the life that it needs. So it's, being the outsider consumer looking at products and saying, why do I have to do that? Well, it's the right thing to do to get the life out of the product. So up on the screen right now, we'll throw just a quick view over on our website.
Yep.
So this is our, Rich, if you want to talk about our website here.
Yeah, I mean, our website, which has so many great things to it as far as from videos and other sport items, but it's also a place you could go to register for that extended warranty. Again, it's fairly simple, straightforward, and I think this is a really nice thing to do and to get the life. I mean, we build a transmission, for the entire life of the product, and better than in many cases than even the original design.
Yeah.
And so why not put a new clutch? Why not put the right lube in it and get a third year?
You get the best performance out of it.
Exactly. Yep.
Absolutely agree with that wholeheartedly.
All right. So we've talked about the right oil. Okay. What happens if what about contamination? I know that's another oil lube related failure. that we talked about. Like, if lube-related failures are, represent at least one of the top three, if not the most, failure, the most occurrence of failures that we see, then what do we do about contamination? How does that happen? How do you?
So we do have on our YouTube channel a really good video that discusses oil sampling. I think with the drain intervals of the oil. So you go back in time, go to that CD50, the old 50 weight mineral oil. Oil changes were what? Like every 20,000 miles? 25,000 miles.
Yeah.
These new synthetic lubricants they're pushing and marketing saying, hey, you could get up to 500,000 miles on this stuff. Vocational guys, no, it's 150,000, change the oil. You work it hard, the oil life reduces. Okay? Oil analysis is a good way to stay in front of things. So don't wait until you have a failure. So I always like talking about that is oil analysis is a fantastic tool to maintain your equipment.
Yeah.
Pull a sample, register it under the number, and then you'll have a record of how the oil's breaking down, what materials are coming in, and it gives you the opportunity to make a repair before something very financial hits you, where it's a complete transmission, or you're hauling a load and you break down 3 states away. Because you can be more preventative to that, especially with these longer change intervals.
Yeah. Or especially too if you've made a change to the transmission or the unit,
absolutely.
or any kind of work done on the truck itself, on the drivetrain.
Yeah,
you might want to look at that sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Better informed is just the best way to go, especially how expensive some of these transmissions are getting nowadays. Now the contamination aspect of it, there is quite a bit of difference between a hard particle contaminant, so let's say like a dirt or metal buildup that's just wearing in over time and it starts getting in the oil, and that's very visual, right? If your oil is breaking down and turning black, or you're getting some metal buildup in the oil, just by looking at it, you can visually see that, right?
Right.
Okay. The advancements of oil over the time, and I give hats off to the engineers on this that sit there and think about chemicals to add and how to change the outcomes of it, but it's not like it used to be where if a transmission got water contaminants in it, it would be very visual just by peeking at the oil.
Yeah.
You know what I
mean?
Yeah,
it'd be gunky and brown and gunky and
So then you get into where does water come from? There's 3 basic systems on cooling systems on transmissions. You're going to have your radiator cooled, where it just pumps out of the transmission, runs through the radiator, comes back. You're going to have an air cooled, where it just goes out through a small radiator that hangs somewhere where there's wind blowing to keep it cool. Or you're going to have what's called a heat exchanger. So these are these little cylindrical radiator coolant goes in, transmission fluid goes in, exchanges the heat, transmission fluid goes back. What ends up happening over time is those fittings inside there, because they don't get replaced, which is kind of interesting, is you do a transmission, you'd think it'd just be automatic. I want to replace this heat exchanger, right? But what ends up happening to those heat exchangers is the fittings corrode over time. The additives in the oil, the older gen oil or non-approved oil, attack that soft brass. Then they start just leaking so slightly.
Yeah.
Well, that slight leak and bypass of coolant gets into the transmission, and then next thing you know, boom, you got a failure.
I know a lot of people think it's the coolant that got into the transmission, but it's not the coolant.
No.
It's just water seeping in through there. I do recall that, and I do remember too an issue that they had originally on some of those heat exchangers with contamination on the early models, but they went to an improved interior with a bladder, and they improved that a little bit, and I think we did see at least that portion over time lessen. But like you said, everything over time, and you can get a little water in there, and then to make matters worse, you get a new transmission because that caused the failure. And you put, what if you put that same heat exchanger on?
Then you're just set up.
That's
for
like not flushing out of an Allison or something, right? I mean, so you're putting it all back in there. So that's another factor.
Yeah. So let's pull up on the screen here. I'm going to get an image of a couple failures. Let's see. Here we go. All right. So I'll give you a rundown of what we're looking at here. That is a synchronizer body. That is the reduction side. So when you're low range, so you're down and low, that's the synchronizer body.
Yep.
And what you're seeing kind of peel off there, that is the friction material.
Pyrolytic carbon.
There you go. See, I knew you got it. Basically, it's debonding or delaminating or whatever fancy word you want to use. The glue is breaking down and the material is separating from the body.
Yep.
That material is there to help slow down the gearing to match the clutch to make the shift.
Absolutely.
So what's your thoughts? What causes that? I mean, I've heard everything from, oh, it's the coolant. Oh, it's this. You know, there's a lot of, it's a bad synchro. My favorite one is
Bad
when it's a
synchro.
bad synchro.
Well, there was some confusion because there was some bad adherence early on some of those. But I'm going back to generations ago on some synchronizers that go way back. But what would cause that to debond?
Yeah.
Basically, and my guess would be some form of heat mixed with some contaminated water, or other contamination in the oil that creates a steam or something like that. Yep.
Yeah, you nailed it. So, anybody that's had the fun of taking wallpaper off, it's
I have.
Glued to the wall, right?
Yes, on top of other wallpaper. That's on top of other wallpaper. Yeah.
Add another layer.
Yeah, that's fun.
But no, so this is basically two elements working together. It's the moisture and then the heat from the RPMs of the synchronizer trying to do the shift.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's really interesting is if you look at the automated manual world, so the ultra shifts,
yes,
the frequency of this problem drops. And it really is, it just speaks to the RPMs that when we're pre-selecting that range shift.
Because you're lessening the heat exchange, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Automated manuals, take that guesswork out of when a transmission should shift.
Mm-hmm.
That nice computer bolted on it, or when you get into the endurance, the computer that's right on top. That's calculating engine speed, road speed, all of these things, and then sequencing all of these shifts to give the parts as much life as possible. We actually see this specific failure mode more in a manual transmission that's operated by a person in the seat than it is a TCU computer trying to make those shifts.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you reduce a lot of failures with the
AMT
with
world.
the AMT world. Absolutely. Yeah.
But they're not bulletproof either. By
No.
any means.
No.
So yeah, delaminated synchronizers is one. You'll end up seeing this also with Allison. Allison's got a good bulletin out there that brings up contaminants as well.
Okay.
And we do have, by the way, a video on YouTube doing the crackle test.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and for those who have not seen our videos, I mean, we have like 30 some videos on Allison, a dozen on differentials, multiples on manual transmission, and I mean, these are nice videos, right in the sweet spot of what you really need to know. And the crackle test is a great example. Yep. I mean, you could have you could have a minimal amount of contamination, but what it could do to you in the transmission, is tragic. And the crackle test will actually show you how to look at that, and just right there on the top of your transmission.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the other lubrication problem. So let's kind of pack it into heat.
Okay.
Let's just look at it as a heat problem. You look at the generations of products going through like look at the FR series, the old 30-year-old transmission. Came in three options. You had a non-pumped unit, then you had an internal cooled unit, and then you had this external cooled unit where it pumps oil out of the transmission. It seems like every transmission being produced nowadays has got an externally cooled system on it, where they're trying to keep it cooler. What are you seeing out there with our customers and everything when it comes down to fleets and downspeeding and fuel economy and engine horsepower? Is this like a new thing, with greenhouse laws? And
oh yeah, I mean the ratios are getting, where the ratios are going is crazy.
Yeah.
And everything's playing nice together from a vertical integration standpoint. And yeah, for sure, that's definitely something we see. And then you'd expect the same thing, in the transmission and lube.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So we'll pull up on the slide here. This is you'll see a halo tube going across the top, so I could sit here and talk all day.
And that's another thing I've noticed in all the AMTs.
Yep.
And starting back with the old Halo 918
yep.
and that one is the delivery of the oil.
Yeah.
to how precise the delivery of the oil is in the Endurance as a good
directly to
example.
the
I mean, it's
headset.
direct. I mean, that's actually a really nice example and a really great engineering on the delivery of the oil.
Absolutely.
So we're getting more efficient on the delivery of the oil.
They're getting more efficient. They're reducing the volume too. They're relying more on the churn, throwing the oil around the housing to
Yep.
cool. So yeah, they're getting very direct, spraying it on the countershaft bearings, spraying it on the drive gear, getting it to the parts that generate heat, because for everybody out there, gearing generates heat automatically. It rolls and slides. So you got to keep it cool, and that's picking the right oil, filling it right.
Filling it right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I've been with people, when they fill it up, and they'll stick their finger in there and they'll go, oh, I got a little oil on it. We're good to go. It's like, I think you should fill it a little further, maybe till it's like seeping out of that little plug.
Yeah, top it right there.
Top it right there at the plug,
And then also don't forget your startup charge of the system.
Yeah.
Because you're going to lose probably close to a gallon charging up that whole cooler system.
Yep.
So,
depending on the cooler system, it could even be more than that. Honestly,
depends on how far away it goes. Yeah, absolutely. So this image that we're going to show you here is a automated manual transmission, and there's one little tell for me. As you zoom way into the main shaft, as you can see a little notch cut into the gear. I'm a gear guy. I mean, I absolutely love gears. This is just a very good example of what happens when a cooler line fitting comes loose in that pump. It's pumping lots of pressure, gallons a minute, sprays it right out onto the concrete. And this type of thing can be prevented too. I mean, if you're using like a boom truck going off-road and occasionally you bottom out or something like that and the cooler line catches, sure. But looking the vehicle over for oil leaks, doing that good, thorough pre and post trip inspection, trying to identify, do I have some drips coming from somewhere? Because you want to get in front of things like this.
No, I can see why. Look at the damage.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, melted steel, blued. The photo really doesn't even do justice.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, bluing and the smells always characteristic sometimes of a low
nice charcoal smell to it.
Low, you'll never get out of your nostrils for a while.
No.
But okay, well, I think today, we've talked about what the right lube is.
Yep.
50, 40.
Yep. 40 weight.
And
386.
50, 40, 386. And the importance of using the right lube and what it means and our belief in it, and then contamination.
Contamination for sure.
And how much?
Yeah. Top it off.
Top it off. So, is there anything else that we can think of, or?
No. I think we got a really good topic focused on.
Bill, thanks a lot, man. This is Bill is just, he's a guru, man. This guy, love talking to him. He and I can talk for quite a while. I may have a little more history than Bill, but he's got more hands on here, certainly of late.
Yep.
So in any event, that concludes our vodcast on transmission oil. Again, look for our upcoming vodcast in the series that we're going to talk about failure modes in other failure modes in transmissions, failure modes in differentials, and our electronics and how to order the right electronics. We have a whole number of great vodcasts coming up, and so I think there's a lot to learn. And as always, from Weller to all of our customers out there, we thank you. Thank you very much.